Hey there, it's Kimberly Lucht, and today I want to talk about how to invite a fuller spectrum of life into your world and into your experience. And so if you don't know, my word of the year for 2024 is colorful. And I like to look at it from the lens not only of like color as the visual color, but also the spectrum that we can experience in terms of emotion and vitality and the full spectrum of different relationships in our life. I think there's a lot to say for expanding our window of tolerance past what we know to be familiar and past what we think is possible into something that feels a little more expansive and like, wow, this feels really outside of my comfort zone, but also like joyful and expanding and exhilarating. Maybe you're feeling a little monochromatic in your emotional state lately, or maybe you just feel like there's not much color in your life, even visually. If you've been feeling like, oh man, another day, another thing, and then you wake up and kind of are like, blah, then this is something that I hope really helps. To inject a little more colorful spectrum into your life, I'm gonna share 3 main things that I think can really help us open up to the possibilities of having a fuller, richer life. And if you feel like there's something in your life right now that's not helping you do that, if you feel like there's a certain routine or person or place that's like, oh man, I don't know if I can get past that. These tips are gonna help you. And also I want to invite you to think about creative ways and possibilities to either move around those things or move within those things and like amp it up a little bit more. And so the first tip that I want to share with you is to widen your spectrum of emotions. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, invite all your feelings to the table. If you feel like you've been baseline, kind of like blah for a few months, maybe it's just kind of a season of your life where you're just like, I just gotta get through it, I just gotta get through it. If you feel like you've been in kind of this range of emotional spectrum, but you want to widen it and feel like the really good, but also feel like, you know, sometimes the uncomfortable feelings too, because you can't have one without the other, I want you to see what might happen if you feel like level 10 joy and like what that might feel like in your body. And then level 10 anger or level 10 sadness, you know, like what does that feel like in your body? And what does level 0 joy and level 0 sadness feel like in your body? The reason why I think this is interesting to play around with is because our capacity for joy and our capacity for all emotions is really linked to how fully we can experience them all. And it doesn't mean that you're outwardly like, wow, or outwardly, but like, internally, there's a lot going on in the emotional landscape that I think we can play around with. And so even just taking a moment here to be like, okay, level 10 joy, what does that look like? And what does it feel like inside the body? Maybe taking a moment, feeling into that. Like level 10 joy, like Oprah called you and she's like, I want to be your friend. You know, like what's the level 10 joy vibe or situation for you? Activate it and let's see what happens. And then how about level 10 anger? Like the most frustrating and anger inducing thing that you can think of that's just happened. Level 10 anger, what does that feel like in the body? What does it feel like? Just like, even like you can groan, you can grunt, like what does that feel like? Yeah. Level 10 sadness, like, oh, this happened, I'm so sad, you can't stop crying. Like what does that feel like in the body? How about level 10 love? Like full on love feelings. What do those feel like in the body? And so I think what we're doing here is titrating between 2 poles of emotions that our society usually thinks are dualistic and that they don't complement each other. But what I'm here to invite you to think about is how might level 10 anger, level 10 sadness, level 10 grief, level 10 any uncomfortable emotion also couple into level 10 joy or level 10 happiness or level 10 love. So positive emotions and negative emotions, quote unquote, might actually feed one another in the sense that the depth of one is the depth of the other. And so if that's the case, widening your spectrum of emotion will help you feel the range of emotion even more beautifully and even more fully, and leading to then a richer life where you're able to fully embody the experience of whatever it is that you're going through, instead of avoiding the feelings or numbing out or finding a different, you know, activity to do to avoid feeling XYZ thing, because those types of things also numb the joy and the happiness and other emotions that feel really playful and fun and exciting, right? And so that's the first step, is to widen your spectrum of emotions. And that Doesn't mean you have to stay in the anger or the sadness or the grief or the frustration for long, but it does mean that you have to be open to feeling those feelings to then also have the access to the full range of emotions on the other side too. The rainbow of emotions. And so the second thing that I want you to do is to widen your spectrum of experiences. And so I know that it can be really difficult sometimes to get out of your routine and get, doing things differently and have different habits. But something that I want you to consider is ways that you might be able to splat paint on your current canvas of life. And so maybe it looks really linear. Maybe you have like, this is my work life, this is my home life, this is my friend life, and it's all very like linear, right? And it's not really like crossing much, there's not much chaos, there's not much creativity or interesting stuff going on. It's like pretty patterned and very predictable. What might happen if you splat some paint, whatever color you want, or maybe multiple colors on that canvas and see what happened? So what I mean by that, this is kind of a metaphor, another metaphor, but what I mean by that is that you insert different or uncomfortable or out of the ordinary things into each of these spaces that maybe just gives you a little excitement or flair, right? And so I actually noticed that I really enjoy and always did enjoy Lisa Frank. And if you're watching this and you're about my age, maybe you were born in the 90s like me, but I used to have a lot of Lisa Frank shit and I loved it. And I really, really enjoyed having it around my space as a kid. And I've noticed, I'm like, I really want to have that again. So I've gotten a couple Lisa Frank things. I'm like, oh, this and that, and like whatever. And some stuff, is on Amazon if you want to know, if you're also searching for Lisa Frank stuff. But I've noticed that in my home life, it boosts my energy levels. And it's so small. It's something so, just kind of mundane for some people probably. But for me, it's like, whoa, it gives me a jolt of energy. And so for me, that's the splat paint, one of the splat paint mechanisms or activities that I can do to make sure that I don't feel like I'm just like, same old, like it's what can we do to bring life? What can we do to bring life to the canvas of your life? Literally bringing life to your life and more life to your life. Yeah. And feeling more alive within your life. That's the kind of goal here. And so think of one way that you might be able to insert some flair or insert some sort of splat paint activity or object or person into either of those categories, your home life, your business life, your friend life. What types of things or activities or people really bring that out and really help you feel like, yes, there's a burst of energy, there's a burst of color in my space or a burst of color in my emotional space or in my life. What are the things that might be able to help you with that and might be able to create a splat paint effect? Thinking about that, right? What does that look like for you? And so the third thing I want you to do is to widen the spectrum of possibility. A lot of us can get into thinking that for better or for worse is pretty safe and pretty risk averse. And I think it's not an accident. This is how we've survived for so many centuries and millennia, is by being a little more cautious than normal. But something that I want to invite you to think about is, what types of possibilities am I declining without actually thinking about it? What sorts of things or goals or opportunities might I be limiting myself from just because I'm scared or nervous or feel like I might not be able to do it? I want you to notice if that's something that's happening for you right now. So for example, if you feel like you want to write a book, but you think you need a publisher, or you think you need a bigger audience, or you think you need the perfect manuscript, what sorts of things do you feel like you're not ready for and therefore not acting towards? Because a lot of times when we think we're not ready for something, we won't even do anything towards that thing, even if it's a big dream that we've had for a while. So if you're starting a business, you're like, I don't know if I can do that before I do this. Like, meh. I want you to stay curious about the possibilities that you might be able to move ahead before you think you can. Yeah. And so taking action is something that will help you move through the barriers of any limitations in your mind and open up that spectrum of possibility for yourself. And when that happens, you start to realize, wow, the only real limitations that I have are the ones that I put on myself. And of course we're in a physical body. Of course we're in a physical space. You can't just like jump out a window and imagine yourself to not be hurt unless it's the first floor window, right? You can't like go past certain limitations of the physical world, of literal modern day physics, but you can go past a lot of the thoughts and beliefs that you have in your mind, and you can overcome them and move through them and see for yourself that, oh, I didn't need a publisher to write that book. I didn't need a big audience to sell that book. I didn't need XYZ thing to write the book. I didn't need the manuscript to be perfect to put it out. And once you start doing that enough times of like, oh yeah, like I can do it even if it's not perfect, the more interesting life becomes and the wider your spectrum becomes of not just possibility, but also opportunity. Because people pay attention to people who go for it, even if they're not totally ready and even if they're not totally prepared. And it's great to be those things. It's great to be ready and prepared, but it's not something that should stop you from doing the things that you really want to do, right? Let's say you want to go to Brazil, and that's one of my favorite countries, so I totally recommend going, but you don't know where to go and you don't know if you want to do this or want to do that. The first step is really just booking the flight. And for a lot of things in life, it's as simple as that. It's booking the flight to get to a certain point. And whatever that first action step could be, sometimes it's booking a flight and sometimes it's writing the first sentence. Yeah? Or it's saying the first word or speaking to the first person. What's the first action step that you can do to widen your spectrum of possibility today? So just to recap, we talked about how to widen the spectrum of emotions. We talked about how to widen the spectrum of experiences. And we talked about how to widen the spectrum of possibility in your life. And so I want you to comment below, which was your favorite? What do you think you're gonna do differently in the next week or so as a result of this widening spectrum experiment? So I really hope that this helps. And if you want more of this guidance, I invite you to download my free Soulful Business Roadmap. It's great if you want to start a business or grow a business, especially if that's one of the things that you want to widen the spectrum of possibility with. I want you to go ahead, click the link below and sign up. It just requires your name and email and it'll be in your inbox in no time. I hope to see you on the inside and thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video and ciao for now. Bye.